Hello, my name is Daniel Copeland. I'm an author and I live in Idaho. I'm here to talk to you today about my experience using Kindle Direct Publishing's Virtual Voice Studio to create audiobooks. I've written the Derek King series. This is book 1, Exile, as well as there's 8 books, by the way, in the Derek King series, and they're all available on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble. And I've also written this book, The Witch of November, which is a standalone book. On Amazon, my books are available paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. I'm just finishing up the audiobook as I make this recording. And I got accepted into a beta program to create audiobooks through Kindle Direct Publishing using a artificial intelligence system. They call it Virtual Voice Studio. And this is not a how-to video. It's a pretty simple platform. I'm not going to go through step by step, but I do want to share some experiences I've had with you in case you're thinking about using it. Now, what I will say is that I think it's, in my opinion, very important that you read each page, every word, because the AI does not always get the pronunciation right, might not be said quite the way you want it to be said. And so you'll need to tweak a few things here and there, and I'll show those to you as we go along, a few examples. The other thing I would say is I would encourage you to do it. Even if you don't plan on finalizing the publication, if you have access to that Virtual Voice Studio, what I've found in going through and watching and listening closely, that I've picked up on small errors that other people, my guests, that my friends that read and edit and give me feedback on my books, that we've all missed. And I've also came across things where I could just, use a better word, maybe structure a sentence a little bit better, maybe change the timing up a little bit. As well as with an 8-book series, by the time I got to the end, it'd been several years since I wrote the first one. And so I just found things that were needed to maybe be explained a little better or maybe said differently in those early books as I went along. So it, I believe, really helped me improve my writing in the books. And so each time I would do the edits and then upload the new files. Now, I don't know if everybody has access to this system. I think they do, but there's no way for me to know that for sure unless you tell me in the comments. I started when it was a beta program a little over a year ago, and I got invited in. I, put in a request to get into it, but now it may be available for everybody that publishes a book. And let me point out, you have to have a live Kindle book for it to work. So if you've got some books out there, if you have a Kindle book on that platform, then, log in, take a look, if you haven't recently, and see if a third option is there to do an audiobook. If it's not, and you have a live Kindle book, I think maybe you could contact Amazon using their contact page and say that you would like to be included in the beta project, and maybe that'll work. I don't know for sure. So anyway, again, this is my experience. It's just some things I came across in using the platform. I would say overall, it's pretty good. It's not perfect. You'll see some of the glitches that I've come across. And if you'd like to just kind of see what it's like, you could look up any of my books, Daniel L. Copeland, on Amazon. Look up Exile, for example. And you can listen to about 5 minutes of it. I think it's exactly 5 minutes of the book, get an idea of what the voice sounds like. Book 2, which is Escape, I used a female voice, so you could listen to that if you would rather have a female voice and kind of see what that's like. I rather liked the female voice, but I thought the male voice was better for my books. Other than book 2, because that story is all about marrying King, and so it really is primarily a female lead character in that book. So without further ado, we'll move forward. I'll just show you some things that I came across. And, I'm an independent author, so buy my book, please. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. I realize this is not going to get me a lot of viewers. It's really directed right to authors who are thinking about using that virtual voice system to publish an audiobook. But if I could just, help one of you in your endeavor, I'd feel great about that. So here we go. I told you this was not going to be a how-to, but let's just start out and look at how this works from the bookshelf. We're a little slow. Okay, so here's your bookshelf. Actually, it's my bookshelf. And this is what you should see if you have the ability to do an audiobook. And I'm working on this book right here. It's book number 7 in the Derek King series. The name of it is Deception. And this is my last book to finish up the audiobooks. Okay, so here you have different voices. You can expand this and look at all of them. I'm using this English 2, masculine voice. You can play a sample of it.
It was not effusive. It seldom was. But he was glad.
I'm sorry. Let me explain something here. I've got a microphone that I'm talking into, but I don't have the audio going into my recording. Try that again.
His manner was not effusive. It seldom was.
Okay, and you've got a couple of English voices, American English. You've got a couple of British voices. I guess they're both female.
His manner was not effusive. It seldom was. But he was glad, I think, to see me.
So I kind of like those, but my book is set in America, so it wouldn't seem right to have an English voice, I don't think. Okay, so you select your voice. Now you can change this at any time, even when you're in the studio, so don't worry too much about that. If you're listening to it for a while and decide, I don't like that voice, you can change it. You don't have to even go back. So you go down, open Virtual Voice Studio, and one would think it would open up to where I left off, but it did not. So let's see, I was in part 2, chapter 8, I think. No, chapter 9. And so that's how that works. And so you don't have a lot of controls here. Up here you can change the voice, like I say, at any time. You can go back to the screen, change the voice. You don't have to back out of the screen. You can add a pause, and there's a couple ways you can do that. You can just put your cursor there and add a pause. And if you want a longer pause, so you can listen to it, see if that's long enough. If it's not, then you can go over here and change it. You have short, medium, and long. Okay, so that's all you got there. And then to get rid of it, you go back over here and hit remove. Then you have pronunciations, and then there's a voice speed. So you can go 25% slower, 50% slower, 25% faster, 50% faster. I have not used that much. I've used it a couple of times. I'm not convinced that it works all that well. Maybe it works better once it's, produced, but I haven't gone through and, listened to a book to make sure that it sounds right when it's applied. So I just haven't used it very often. A couple of times I've had 3 words in a row that, that the person speaking would say those really quickly, like run, run, run. And so I've sped it up a little bit. The other thing, when you have something like that, you would typically write it with a comma. It does pause when it comes to commas and periods. Question marks, the inflection goes up as if it's a question. Sometimes to me that doesn't sound right based on the character and what they're saying, so I go in and change the pronunciation. So instead of having a question, it has maybe a period behind it, so it's a little flatter at the end. So when something isn't quite right, you can play with that. And I will also tell you that I've come across things that I can't get it to pronounce the word right.
And I've also found that one voice might pronounce the word right and another voice doesn't. But you're stuck with whatever you select up here when you finalize the book. You can't like pick out a paragraph and change it to another voice. That'd be nice, but you can't do it with this system. So I have come across words that I just can't figure out how to spell it or write it in a way that it comes out right. So for example, I had the word bode. It does not bode well in a sentence, and I could not get this voice to say that word right. It wanted to say bud, something like that. So I tried double O's, I tried all kinds of things, and it just never would say it right. So I actually changed the word to forebode, and I just did that in pronunciation because in the text, obviously you can read it, so it's not a problem. The other thing I'll tell you is that you might highlight things in a sentence like a word where you want that word emphasized in the reader's mind. That's all stripped out of this when it comes into this suite. So to get emphasis on a word, I've tried using exclamation marks and maybe capitalizing the word. Sometimes I get what seems like a little more inflection, but not much. Some things you just can't fix, and you might have to rewrite them differently or just do the pronunciation thing and rewrite it differently. So that's the layout of the system and how it works. So when I wrote the book, I just numbered the chapters, but it occurred to me when I was listening to it that, you just read the number out and it's a little confusing, so I didn't want to go back and add chapter to every chapter in the book. So you can do this. I'm going to edit the pronunciation and just going to add chapter 29. You can check the pronunciation over here.
Chapter 23.
And apply it. Okay, let's give that a listen.
Chapter 23. Akira Eseti. Staring at...
Okay, there's a problem. I capitalized these first words in each chapter, and as you may have heard, it just spelled S-A-T, so I need to change that pronunciation. We'll just do that. Needs a comma there. Add it. Now I'll give it a listen.
Akira sat, staring at the computer monitor, saying nothing.
Okay,
Misunderstood.
there you go. Okay, another quick example. I've already changed the chapter part.
Chapter 30. The road meandered through Joshua, trees and cacti varieties unknown to Derek. He and Miriam were in the bed of the late pickup truck. Atwood drove, and Commander Haskins sat in the passenger seat.
Okay, let's give us another example here. I've already changed the chapter, as you can see.
The road meandered through Joshua trees and cacti varieties unknown to Derek. He and Miriam were in the bed of the late pickup truck. Atwood drove, and Commander...
Okay, did you notice how it pronounced lead here as lead? So let's see if we can get it to say it right.
Lead.
That sounds better. Let's try that.
He and Miriam were in the bed of the lead pickup truck.
There, fixed it. Came across this one. It gave me a little trouble. Have a listen.
John continued. Damn chosen sobs.
Okay. I tried a few different things to make this come out right. I won't do them all, but this is what I wound up doing. S-O-B.
SOBs.
There we go.
John continued. Damn chosen SOBs, they want my beer. All of it.
That's how I fixed that one. Sometimes a sentence just doesn't read right to my ear, and there's not a lot of things you can do. You can pause, you can change the pronunciation, and you can change the voice speed. But the inflection in the voice is kind of hard to get. So let me read to you, or let you listen to this sentence right here.
Oh, I was really in a fog, wasn't I?
So it's not bad, but I don't particularly care for it. So let's see if we can make it just a little better. I'm going to add a couple of short pauses. There. here, you do get a pause after the period and after a comma. And even though it is a question, having that rise at the end as a question is supposed to my ear, it doesn't sound quite the way I want it to be. So let's see if this is any better.
Oh, I was really in a fog, wasn't I?
To my ear, that's a little better, so I'm going to keep it that way. When I first started working on these audiobooks about a year ago, Safari wouldn't work. You got an error message that said, try another browser. So I've been working in Firefox, and I just thought I'd go over to Safari and see if that had been resolved. So I'm in Safari now, and it seems to be working fine, or when I say fine, the same as it is currently working in Firefox. And so here's what it's doing today. And point I'm trying to make here is that it gets a little funky sometimes. I notice that more problems on the weekend, probably because more people are trying to create their books. Sometimes it'll just kick you out for no reason. You got to start over. Different things happen, but this has been happening for a couple of days. So pay attention here. Over on this side, you'll see what chapter I'm in, number 43, right? And I'm going to start it right at the last sentence and see what happens.
That was how this would end. Chapter 44. Friday, April 9th, 4:55 p.m.
And it's reading 44, but we're seeing 46. So pay attention to that. Sometimes it'll do that. It's been doing that for a couple days now. So always have to go back to the next chapter. Otherwise, you're going to wind up skipping ahead, which obviously wouldn't manage doing that because you're not really looking at what's on your screen's not what's being read. So it's got some quirks still. I told you in the last segment that I was trying it in Safari. Well, I got through about a half a page and it just froze up. So now I'm back in Firefox. Not sure they have all the bugs worked out to use it in Safari. And so I'm going to go to the same place where it locked up on me in Safari and just make sure it's not their problem. And while I was here, I thought I would give you a quick explanation on something. You might wonder why I've changed the pronunciation of this name, L. Linda. The character's kind of quirky, and that her name is always said this way is important to her. The reason I changed it is because with the period after L, the AI always puts a pause there like it's the end of the sentence, so it doesn't sound right. And here's how I changed it. Also, it would kind of skip over L. Linda, and it'd come out kind of blurred together. It was hard to pick out what the voice was saying. So the L is literally, there's a space here. You have to put something there or it won't let you save it. So I just put a space so it doesn't pronounce the L at all. And then over here, it's still, if I put L. Linda, it wasn't quite right often. So I wrote it like that.
L. Linda.
And then it pronounced it the way I wanted it to. So here's where we started. Here's where I was in Safari when it locked up on me. And let's see if it continues forward.
L. Linda said, "Tell me what happened." Akira said, "There was a problem with the reactor." As in nuclear reactor? Yes, it was critical. I was in the control room.
Man, it seems to be working fine in Firefox now. So here's another one that I came across today that I thought I would share with you. Let's just start here.
Charlie hesitated. L. Linda knew the delay was unrelated to Charlie's ability to process information. She suspected the problem was Charlie didn't know how to backtrack, change his mind. It was a series of ifs, what ifs, and how-tos.
Okay, so I guess one way to avoid this is don't use any kind of like words like that. Doesn't work for my writing. So how are we going to fix this? How seems like that would be easy enough to fix or
How to.
pronounce correctly.
How to.
Still doesn't sound right.
How-tos.
That's better. I hope you can hear that. I'm going to move my microphone and we'll try it.
She suspected the problem was Charlie didn't know how to backtrack, change his mind. It was a series of ifs, what ifs, and how to, so Linda didn't push it.
Okay, let's slow down there. Don't forget, if you're changing the pronunciation of a at the end of the sentence, to add your punctuation. Otherwise, it will be too fast. Not sure if I fixed that. Yep, I did. Let's try it.
She suspected the problem was Charlie didn't know how to backtrack, change his mind. It was a series of ifs, what ifs, and how-tos, so Linda didn't push it. Best to let him figure.
Okay, that sounds good. Also, just point out that it's still being glitchy today. Today it's been skipping like one chapter. The other day it was skipping two. I hope they get that fixed before too long. It's a little bit of a inconvenience. Okay, that's it. I thank you for watching the video if you stuck with me this far. A couple of things that I wanted to clarify. I talked about that you had to have a Kindle book live before you could do the audiobook, and that's because the text that creates your audiobook comes from the ebook. So the way I do it is I open up my Word document that contains that text, and as I go through, if I make any edits, I go to my Word document, make the edits. Of course, pronunciation changes and things you do only in the audio portion. And one of the questions I had when I first started is, I've gone through this entire book. I've made a whole bunch of changes to pronunciation and different things. And then I'm going to update that ebook, and I'm wondering if I have to start over. And you don't. The text, the audiobook is updated with your new text, but it retains all the corrections and things you did in the Virtual Voice suite. Okay, so then of course you'll want to update your paperback with that new file and any other platforms where you might have your book. I think I said something wrong early on. When I write my book, sometimes I will use italics to really set aside that this is a thought the character's having, and of course that gets stripped out of the audio book. I also might italicize a word just to show that word would be emphasized in the sentence. That too doesn't show up in the audio book. So sometimes, since, if it's in italics, it's clear to the reader that it's a thought. You wouldn't necessarily italicize it and then add, Derek thought, right? So you can just add that in your ebook, because otherwise it can be confusing. And you can do that by just, on the last word, if the last word is thought, you can, in your pronunciation, make that say thought, Derek thought. Okay, that's not a good example as far as the word goes, but you get the idea, I think. So again, I want to thank you for sticking with me. I'm not a professional at this, and I just wanted to see if I could help anyone out. Again, I'd recommend using the Virtual Voice. If nothing else, it helps you perfect your book, I think. Makes it a better book. Try it, you might see. And again, I'm an independent author, and so book sales are important. If you're a reader, consider reading one of my books. And if you don't want to commit yourself to a series, you could start with Witch in November and see if you, like my writing. Witch in November, I might just point out, it's not about witches,
Many of you never heard that phrase. I had not heard the phrase until I started writing the book. If you live around the Great Lakes, you might know what that means, but it plays a big part in the story. So again, thank you for joining. I hope it helped you, and I hope you have a great day.